From bureaus worldwide, this
is FSN, you dipstick, is what you're supposed to say. Welcome to the programme, Tuesday's programme. How are you doing? The Brazilian president has tested positive for COVID. And Johnny Depp is telling a court in the UK that he did not beat the granny out of his wife. And Tom Hanks is telling people that he has no respect for people whatsoever if they don't do the very basic thing and wear a mask. And what is the attitude of youngsters despite the COVID spikes around the world?
Enjoy yourself and kill a granny is the answer.
What? What's that?
Enjoy yourself and kill a granny is the answer.
That's the answer. Welcome to the programme.
It's the BBG, not the BBC. You're listening to the Richie Allen Radio Show, live from Salford in Greater Manchester.
Kill two if you can.
It's the Richie Allen Show, broadcasting live on richieallen.co.uk and multiple platforms around the world. And now, here's your host, Richie Allen.
Welcome to the program. Neal Sanders from nealsandersmindcontrol.com. Neal is an author with a master's in film studies, and he's an expert in mind control. I've been inviting old friends of the program to come on and basically shoot the breeze with me about everything that's going on. Neal will join me in the second hour. Neal has got a program going out on the Ickonic platform, as does Charlie Robinson, who joins me in hour one. Great to be connecting with Charlie again. He wrote the brilliant The Octopus of Global Control, and he also presents a podcast which can be found on Ickonic. It's called Macroaggressions. Those are the guests today. And speaking of grannies, how you doing, Wendy Ruth? How you doing, Wendy? Wendy is listening to the program today with her granddaughter Reamer. I better watch my P's and Q's and better keep the foul language to a minimum. Love you too, Wendy. Thanks for listening to the radio program. It's a grim, dismal, miserable afternoon in Salford. There's nothing summery about it. But I don't mind. I've got you, babes. We've got each other. Is what we've got. So listen, let's have a quick roundup of the news then, before we go any further. Hey, by the way, 22 years ago this week, I presented my first live radio show. Yes, in Portlauriga, in Waterford. Wow, you think I'm bad now? And you might have a point. You should have heard that first radio program. Oh, I exercised the tape before burning it. I actually got a priest to stand there and exercise the tape before burning it. It'll never be heard. So today is the 7th of July 2020. 15 years ago today, this BBG was living in Moss Side in Manchester. And as a result, I'm double hard. I'm well hard. Of course I am, like everybody who lived in Moss Side. And of course, 15 years ago, we had the 7th of July bombings. 56 people killed. Bombs going off at train stations and on buses around London. We were told 4 men who travelled to London, Muslim men, had done it, the bastards, and it was evidence that terror cells were operating in Britain, and, well, we need to be in Afghanistan, and, well, we need to be in Iraq, and it was dreadful. Some years later, I have to admit, sometime around 2010, somebody played a bit of audio for me from ITN News on the night of the 7th of July 2005. On the night. A man called Peter Power, who was running a crisis management company, was on ITN News live on the night, and he said, what remains, for me anyway, the most extraordinary thing I have ever heard on a news programme in my 45 years on Earth. Peter Power live on ITN. 15 years ago today.
Today we were running an exercise for a company, bearing in mind I'm now in the private sector, and we sat everybody down in the city, 1,000 people involved in the whole organisation, but the crisis team, and the most peculiar thing was we based our scenario on the simultaneous attacks on the Underground and mainline station. So we had to suddenly switch an exercise from fictional to real. And one of the first things is, get that bureau number. When you have a list of people missing, tell them. And it took a long time.
Just to get this right, you are actually working today on an exercise that envisioned virtually this scenario.
Almost precisely. I was up until 2 o'clock this morning because it's our job, my own company, Advisor Consultants. We specialise in helping people to get their crisis management response. How do you jump from slow time thinking to quick time doing? And we chose a scenario with their assistance which is based on a terrorist attack because they're very close to a property occupied by Jewish businessmen. They're in the city, and there are more American banks in the city than there are in the whole of New York. A logical thing to do. And I've still got the...
I was going to say, how extraordinary today must feel for you as it unfolds. You mentioned a few moments ago there our experience with Irish Republican terror.
Yes, and then the hopelessly inept presenter moves on to talking about the difference between the IRA and these new Muslim cells. Yes, he doesn't stop him again and say, hang on, Peter. Hang on now. Are you telling me that you were running a drill based at the exact locations where the actual bombs went off, imagining the same scenario? Really? And on the radio in Spain some years ago, an old American guy used to ring me off air. There's a few American guys used to ring that radio show in Spain. One of them was a former Marine called Jack, who was in his 70s. I hope he's still alive and well, Jack. Jack used to come on air all the time. Good guy, Jack. Served in World War II. But another guy used to ring me off air. And he had taught mathematics at Yale University. He had. I checked him out. And he was an old American guy, retired, former mathematician. And he liked the radio show in Spain, but he thought all the stuff I talked about was bollocks. Now, I do talk some bollocks, I'll be the first to admit that, but not everything I talk about is bollocks. So I said to him, come here, and I tell you, what are the odds that you plan a drill and you imagine bombs going off in several specific locations in a city? And on the day you're doing your drill, real bombs go off in those places, the exact ones. What are the odds of that coincidence? And he said to me, well, I couldn't calculate, Richie, without a very powerful computer. Astronomical is the answer. You think? It's in the trillions to one. That was an operation carried out by UK intelligence agencies, deliberately killing British people in the capital city of this country to further another agenda, to convince the public at large that we need to be dropping bombs on innocent children, women and men in Iraq. Madness. That was 15 years ago today. Nick Collerstrom, whatever Nick Collerstrom might be. Some of my friends think he's a scabby old Holocaust denier. You can think whatever you want about him. He wrote Terror on the Tube, and for me it remains the best conspiracy research book that I've ever read. And it's still available on Amazon, and I recommend you read it. It's outstanding. So the BBC has come under fire today. Presenters making a podcast called No Country for Young Women. This is a BBC podcast called No Country for Young Women. And it's presented by women, mostly white women. And they were talking about Karens and where the term Karen came from. And they were discussing about what to do about Karens. The term Karen has become common lately, and it is used to describe middle-aged white women who show allegedly racist behaviour. So these women were talking about Karens, and it's pissed off some Conservative Party MPs who have called for the licence fee to be abolished because of this. Listen to these young women, mostly white women. There might be an Asian woman in there talking about Karens, and see what you think yourself.
You don't want to kind of interrogate how their behaving might be racist or what they're doing is problematic. So I think like you have to be ready to think critically about your identity and your privilege, and that's really important.
Yeah, and don't be so loud. Like stop shouting and stop attacking black voices, and instead you should be uplifting them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, get out of the way, basically.
Yeah, basically leave.
Yeah, Karen should shut up and leave. That's annoyed a lot of people today. It's a podcast that you can get on BBC iPlayer if you want to see it in its full context. Karens. Love these terms. Keir Starmer, this is interesting now, is the recently appointed voted in leader of the Labour Party, replacing, of course, Jeremy Corbyn. And I missed this yesterday morning, but he was on LBC radio with Nick Ferrari yesterday morning. And a woman called Sharon rang in, a black woman, and she had a question for Keir Starmer, the new leader of the Labour Party. And this is very, very, very interesting. And it's also a bit creepy and a bit sinister. Not the question, the answer. Have a listen.
Good morning, Keir.
Hi, Sharon.
Good morning, Nick. Good morning,
Hello.
Keir. So, I just wanted to put this to you. As a black Labour Party member who not only voted for you to be leader and indeed nominated you at local level in our CLP, I was very, in fact, extremely disappointed you refer to Black Lives Matter as merely a moment. For me, it's indicative of unconscious, dismissive language and attitudes, and feeds into structural racism and unchallenged, pervading elements in society. So my question to you is that for me it was unconscious bias that sets black lives back and maintained inequality. I would ask, would you consider having unconscious bias training or updated unconscious bias training?
Unconscious bias training now. This is our question. I didn't like what you said, Keir, about the Black Lives Matter movement. So because I didn't like it, would you have some unconscious bias training?
In view of that comment.
Sharon, on the second point you raised, which is really important about unconscious bias training, in the Labour Party we are introducing that for all of our staff, and I'm going to lead from the top on this and do that training first. So I think it's very important that we do. We took a decision to introduce it across the Labour Party, and I think that's the right thing to do, and I think I should lead by example by doing it first.
How long is the course, Sir Keir?
How long is the course?
Sir Keir?
It's about 2 or 3 hours.
And when will you be doing it?
I'll do it as soon as I can book in for it.
Do you mind asking, do you think you need it?
I think everybody should have unconscious...
Yes, we should all have fucking unconscious bias training, because we're all a big group of bigoted, unconsciously biased fuckers, every one of us. And we need 3 hours. If we can't give 3 hours of our time for our black, Asian, minority, ethnic brothers and sisters, well, I don't know. Wouldn't you campaign for a politician? Wouldn't you put flyers all over the Western Hemisphere for a politician? If his answer to Sharon had been, fuck off, Sharon, will you? Fuck off. Next question. You know what I mean? Unconscious bias training, eh?
Unconscious bias training. I think it is important. There is always the risk of unconscious bias.
There's always the risk of unconscious bias. Wow.
Yes. And just saying, oh, well, it probably applies to other people, not me, is not the right thing to do. So I'm going to lead from the front on this and do the training.
Well, if you say it's okay for other people, but it doesn't apply to me, that means you are unconsciously biased, presumably. This is straight out of Orwell, isn't it? And hopefully this is re-education for people. I mean, it's not even funny. I don't know why I send it up, because sending it up maybe allows it to progress. I don't know. It's just horrendous, this, isn't it? And this is why I said to Dean Henderson last night, I have my moments. Today I woke up and I thought, yes, there's a chance for us. You know, maybe. Tomorrow I'll be thinking, we're fecked, we're screwed, we're gazumped, But this is going to win this. There's no opposition to this. None, because socialism is dead. There never was any socialism in this country anyway. There's no real socialism. There's this fake left. These lunatics who think this is a good idea. To tell children who've never done anything wrong to anybody. Children. To tell them in classrooms, you were born with prejudice. You were born with bias. They're not. They couldn't be. They're kids. So, yeah, I'm going to have it. I'm going to take the lead on it, and then all the Labour Party people will have it. But what they really want to do is stick this in the minds of children. It's mental. Who's standing up to it? Nobody. Oh, it's terrible. 17 minutes past the hour. Imagine he'd have told Sharon where to get off, eh? Wouldn't it have been a beautiful thing? What was that, Sharon? Unconscious bias training? Feck off, love, will you? Feck off. Go back to boiling your husband's dinners or burning your husband's dinners or whatever it is you should be doing. Wow. Halle Berry then today, actress, very good actress. Halle Berry. Is that virtue signaling? Is that unconscious virtue signaling? No, she's very good. I remember I remember the role she won her Oscar for, opposite Billy Bob Thornton. Very grim, but very good film. She played the wife of a death row guard. And very good, very bleak. I liked it because I was very into capital punishment at the time and the abolition of it in America and elsewhere. But she's very good, but she's been apologising for nearly starring in a movie as a transgender male. Nearly happened, but she swerved it. She had a job, Halle. And I know this to be true. Once women go beyond a certain age in Hollywood, they don't get very many roles. Because there isn't unconscious bias against older women in Hollywood. There is absolute, provable, definitive bias against older women. Roles aren't written for them, and they tend to just kind of get, I don't know, token roles later on. And she's over a certain age now. She's over 50. So she was going to play a trans male, but she got hammered on social media for misgendering. So she said, as a cisgender woman, I now understand that I should have considered not taking the role, and the transgender community should undeniably have the role. So let's get a trans man to play a trans man. But that's not acting, is it? But it doesn't matter. James O'Brien on LBC Radio, mid-morning. He won't be allowing so-called anti-vaxxers on his radio show anymore, or 5G skeptics. Because even though he believes they are foolish and ridiculous and easy to dismantle, they could still kill somebody if they're allowed on air. So James, well, he just won't be entertaining them anymore. This was his radio show this morning. This is wretched in every way you could possibly imagine. James O'Brien, London School of Economics, James O'Brien.
Reports today show that nearly 1 in 6 Britons say they will refuse a coronavirus vaccine.
Good for them. Good for them. The 17%, 16.5% that don't want the vaccine, good for them. But it's not good if you're the mass media.
Becomes available. And another similar number is still unsure about it. Now, I told you at the time, and I want to make this clear, I told you at the time that the strangest thing in the early days of this crisis for me were the messages I was getting from old mates, like people coming to me via Facebook who I haven't seen for 30 years, lads I was at school with who know that I'm in the media. So they thought, rightly or wrongly, that I might be able to give them a steer on stuff. Or a mate of mine who's a barber who got in touch to say, I've been sent this thing on WhatsApp. Is it true about the 5G masts? So when I say I don't want to talk to you if you are in this category of people, then I don't want you to think that I'm sort of looking down on you. I just can't.
Oh no, it's worse than that, O'Brien. When you say you don't want to talk to people with these opinions or allow them access to your radio show, it's not that you're looking down on them. You're censoring them. You're depriving them of one particular opportunity to explain why it is that they are suspicious about vaccines and why they do worry about 5G. It's censorship, whatever way you look at it.
Can't obviously use this platform to promote opinions or ideas that will kill other people listening. That's just my responsibility to you.
Wow, you hear that? You did? You hear that?
I think that I'm sort of looking down on you. I just can't obviously use this platform to promote opinions or ideas that will kill other people listening. That's just my responsibility to you. That's human to human. Parent to parent, if you like. I can't do that. But I do care passionately about you and your safety and your family's health. And the fact that you have become an anti-vaxxer is terrifying and tragic, and I want to help you come out of that darkness.
But
if I let you talk to me about it, then
I want to help you come out of the darkness of the anti-vax movement, and it terrifies me. And I want to help you, but I can't let you on the air to talk to me face to face about it.
Then you might bend some ears of people listening.
Wow.
An anti-vaxxer is terrifying and tragic, and I want to help you come out of that darkness. But if I let you talk to me about it, then you might bend some ears of people listening, and that would be like conducting a proper debate about whether or not bleach cures coronavirus.
No, it fucking wouldn't. If I let you on to talk to me about it, you might convince somebody out there. And what that means is, let's put that in layman's terms. I, James O'Brien, am one of the biggest fucking shills that has ever worked in the UK media. I know for a fact that some vaccines, some not all, cause real harm to people. I know that there are many doctors around the world, real doctors, real ones, who went to some of the most famous fucking institutions in the world, are asking questions about the efficacy and safety of vaccines. I know this, but I'm a gatekeeper, you see. It's my job to make sure that you never fucking hear these people. That's really what James O'Brien is saying. So I won't let you come on. Not because I think you'll do some real harm to people, but you might actually drop one or two nuggets of truth on the listening audience. Therefore, from now on in, we won't be talking about vaccines or 5G or anything else on my programme anymore. And they have the fucking cheek to call themselves journalists. These fucking shills. Eh? Back with Charlie Robinson after Bruce Springsteen on the Richie Allen Radio Show, the most listened to independent radio show in Europe. Bruce Springsteen on the Richie Allen Radio Show. It's a Tuesday afternoon in Salford, the northwest of England. And as I said earlier on, it's pretty grim out there. It's pretty miserable. Thanks for tuning in. Drive time, of course, in the UK. Thanks for your company, as always. Let's welcome back to the programme the host of Macroaggressions, a podcast to be found on the Ickonic platform these days, and the author of the excellent book, The Octopus of Global Control. He's got a book coming out real soon, and I think Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, is involved in it, so we'll find out a little bit about that as well. Let's welcome back to the programme Charlie Robinson. Charlie, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, Richie. Thanks for having me in this crazy 2020 that we're only halfway through. Only halfway through, Charlie. How do you feel about what's been happening in terms of the response of ordinary men and women to it? This was the thing that many people believed. If something like this did happen, that ordinary folk, when I say ordinary folk, because I'm an ordinary guy, but people who weren't exposed to conspiracy researchers in the past, they would finally open their eyes and realise that something very bad was going on. That doesn't appear to be the case. How do you read it? I'm pretty disappointed with the general public, to be honest with you. I don't know that I expected a whole lot more. I hoped for more, but maybe I wonder about this as we watch the media just lie one after another. The government, in conjunction with them, they prop up these people that come out of nowhere, like Fauci and Birx and Neil Ferguson and all these people that come onto the scene out of nowhere, and the public just instantly falls in line with what they're saying and just trusts and everything. I wish I were that trusting, I suppose, but I would expect a little bit more discernment. I would hope for a little bit more. I mean, I think that we need to be very careful about these people that we put on a pedestal and decide are the leaders. We've heard the name Bill Gates. Everyone sort of knows who he is. Oh, he's this likable nerd, and he does Microsoft, and he gives lots of money to charity, and isn't he a good guy? Well, let's dig into his background. I mean, who's Fauci? Who are these people? Before we allow these people that seemingly come out of the shadows and then take a leadership role, it's our duty and obligation to check out who they really are. Who do they work for? Where are they getting their money? What's their agenda? What's their background? And we did none of that. I mean, we in the alternative media, of course, did, but the general public just quietly got in line to do what they said. They locked their houses down, and I think part of that doesn't come from a place of ignorance necessarily, but it comes from that most people are good people. And when they're told, hey, listen, we're going to need to inconvenience you for a little bit, but by doing so, it will help to make sure that all these other people out there don't die. Well, look, we're good people. We would do that. We would say, okay, well, I can get on board with that. But what are we? Day 120 out of day 15 of the lockdown? I mean, wasn't it supposed to be a 2-week thing? And now here we are months down the road, and I feel like it's sort of incumbent on these people, on the general public, to kind of snap out of it and go, hang on a second. We did what you asked us to do to flatten the curve, right? And now what? You just are coming up with constantly new excuses for why we have to do this over that. We have to stay in. We can't do. Oh, you can protest, Richie, but for Black Lives Matter, but you cannot protest the lockout. I mean, we're seeing this hypocrisy, and even the most casual observer of the mainstream media is starting to go, this doesn't really add up to me. So I feel like maybe
where we've lacked over the first half of 2020 with the general public figuring out what's really going on. Maybe the media, the traditional mainstream media, will overplay their hand with so much contradictory evidence and so much hypocrisy that even the casual or even the most dumbed down sheep amongst us will rise up and go, yeah, I'm not listening to you anymore because you're not giving me honest answers. I feel like you're lying to me, and I feel like there's something more to it. So hopefully we turn this whole thing around. I am optimistic of that, but so far I've been a bit disappointed in humanity's response.
Yeah, I think despite the fact that we often talk about people's dependence on the mainstream media, and we understand that getting their information exclusively from the mainstream media is a big problem, I think we actually probably don't realise just how powerful that is. I mean, I worked in it. I was thinking this morning, so you have Melbourne is locked down again, and they've locked down Leicester here in the UK, and they're warning that more localised lockdowns will have to occur, even though the figures from the National Health Service here would show that, most of the people who died from it, the vast majority were over 60. They died in care homes. These people, it's not affecting young people, it's not affecting middle-aged people really, and only just over 1,300 people have allegedly died without having any pre-existing condition. So there is some stuff getting into the media. I mean, I was interested today reading a guy called Richard Littlejohn. He talked about the fact that theatres, you've probably been following this, Charlie, they're saying that theatres here in the UK probably won't open till 2021. That's devastating. It's going to put tens and tens of thousands of people out of work forever, let alone the fact that theatre is vital for the health of any society. It feeds our soul, the arts and theatre. But Richard Littlejohn made a good point today. He said, and you touched on this, he said, hang on a second, so we're allowing people fly on airplanes, but we can't allow people go to the theatre for a 2-hour production. And I would hope that little things like that, as you just said yourself, would start to penetrate people's minds, and they might start to think, are we being had here? Is this virus being used as an excuse to basically bring in a kind of a police state? And I would hope that maybe as time goes on, people will, and maybe, Charlie, it might take people to start feeling it in the pocket. What do you think? To feel the economic impacts of it even more before they start to maybe realise.
For sure. It's going to, for small and medium-sized business owners, they're having to make these decisions right now. Okay, if I comply with these, I'm done either way. Either I comply with these insane orders and lose my business, or I open up my business and run the risk of having it, invaded by the police, shutting me down. Part of the, we had these protest/riots here in the United States, and people were, the media was very quick to assign all of this towards the George Floyd situation. But I would say that there was, it's impossible to quantify, of course, but there was a segment of the population that was protesting and maybe even rioting that were tired of being locked down. Yeah. They were tired of watching. Yes, they have issues with police brutality versus the black community, but they were also just coming off of 3 months of being in their house where they're watching videos of the police arresting mothers with their kid in front of their kids at a park when they're playing with nobody else around. You're watching people get arrested on the beach, chased on the beach. A guy opens a gym in New Jersey. He's arrested. His gym is shut down. They put a lien on all of the equipment in there so that the state will take that. A lady opens her nail salon. She's arrested. Another one opens a hair salon. We're remembering this too. So there's some, at some point, people are going to rise up against. Well, you would hope that people are going to rise up against this. We're having to make decisions about, if you're a small business owner, I either comply and go out of business, or I defy their orders, open up my store, and then I just have to it's a gamble as to whether the authorities are going to come in and shut me down, or fine me, or seize all of my assets. And this is fueling like a paradox inside of people where they're almost paralyzed by this decision that they have to make. Good people are being forced to either, to come out against the state orders. And on top of all of that, one of the things that just infuriating is when you've got somebody like the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, come out and say everybody has to wear masks, mask, and then you dig into his background and you say, well, you did $1 billion deal with a company in China for masks, and then you get caught on camera in Montana yourself not wearing a mask, and then you've shut down all of these stores and all of these businesses and all of these wineries in Central California, except your winery is somehow excluded from that and is available. You know, at some point, it's going to be torches and pitchforks here, because the ruling elite have been so hypocritical in their, declarations of what they want for the common people, and yet at the same time going about doing their own thing. Or you see Fauci when he thinks the cameras are us, dropping his mask down, or all the people standing behind Trump without masks, and you go, is this just performance art? I mean, are we a part of like a gigantic Monty Python skit that we're not aware of?
Thanks for introducing the concept that people went out on the streets because they were pissed off of 3 months of lockdown and they'd seen people being arrested on telly. Thanks for that. I hadn't considered that. It's really interesting. And you mentioned business owners. There is a lady called Vicky who listens to this program. She owns her own salon. Now, she's been very brave. She went back to work a few days ago and she's not wearing the silly safety equipment and the visor and the silly gloves, and she's not put perspex screens in, and she's not asking her customers to take temperature tests. And I hope she'll be okay. I think it does need people to be courageous and to say, no, we're not going to comply with this. It's absolutely insane. The first time in history that healthy people have been quarantined, to protect people who might be vulnerable. And of course, Charlie, I don't know if you've encountered this. One of the most frustrating things about asking questions about the lockdown necessity is the ad hominem attacks that come immediately. Oh, you couldn't give a shit about the elderly. I mean, that's disgraceful. Nobody's saying let people die. But ironically, what the government did in this country, and I don't know if they did it in America, but in this country, they took elderly people from hospitals, not knowing whether they had the virus or not, and sent them into care homes where people died as a result of it. That's stupid policy. And that's why so many people seem to have died in care homes here. I don't know if anything like that has been happening in the United States, has it?
It has. It has. And it happened in, surprisingly, all of the cities that had these Democratic governors. And I'm not on the red team or the blue team. Yeah. I don't like either of them. But you talk about New York and Michigan. They did the same things where they took the elderly, put them in the care homes, and then magically everybody in there started dropping dead from the coronavirus. Now, look, I am empathetic to people that die from anybody that dies from this. It's horrible, of course. And if it's a relative of yours, it's going to be, a tragedy. But if we're looking at if we're going to be objective about it and look at the statistics and be, not get bogged down in the emotion of it, the statistics are not bearing out that this is a massive pandemic. This is not the Black Plague that we were told to expect. And in fact, a disproportionate number of the deaths have come from these care homes. Now, there's jokes, not good jokes, but, kind of cavalier jokes about how these care homes are like, the waiting room for death anyway, on a normal day. And unfortunately, that is the situation. I remember my grandmother was put into one and she declined, tremendously the minute she went in. So I don't think that they're a good place for maintaining health on the best circumstances. When you introduce this disease and then you put in mandates from the governors that people have to be put into these care homes, I mean, that's like a recipe for disaster. And of course, what did we get? We got the same results that you got, which was a ton of older people dying. But
Charlie, can
I
just ask you a question? Sure. This is an unfair question now. You don't have to know the answer to this, but I'm guessing because of the way things have gone in the US with prisons and schools, I'm guessing that the care homes is pretty much right across the board is pretty much run by private companies and private corporations. There isn't any US state-owned care sector, is there? I don't think so.
No, they're privately run and they're gold mines
for money. They're run for money, right? So so a senior citizen goes in there and they pay presumably good money, but these privately run facilities, they're scrimping and cutting costs and cutting corners all the time at the expense of their guest, the senior citizen. This is what happens, right?
Yeah,
for sure. And they're privately run. They make a fortune. And you might, so as an example, you might have your grandmother might have lived on her own in an apartment that's $1,500 a month, and then she comes to the end where she has to be put into a care home. To give you an idea of where the pricing might be $8,000 to $10,000 a month for them, and they have a roommate. And the places are packed. And if it's a memory care component of it, where you're dealing with someone with Alzheimer's, then the numbers can double or even triple from that. So they make a fortune from this. This is a very lucrative industry that's growing with the number of baby boomers getting into that age range. So it's big business. And for the government to then get involved and start to mandate that they move people from hospitals into these facilities it's insane. It goes against all sort of business practices, and I'm sure that the companies themselves probably did not want any part of this.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's the way things have played out here, and it's
that's a brilliant point, Charlie.
Led to deaths.
Thanks again for making that point, because care home workers and staff have said exactly that. They've said, we knew this was going to be a disaster. An English doctor who's been on this program with me, a former English doctor, he said he's come to believe, against his better judgment, because he doesn't want to believe it, but he's come to believe that it was a deliberate policy, that they knew that lots of older people would die, and well, why not? Let it happen. And if there's any truth in that, it's sickening. Charlie Robinson is our guest. Charlie was very kind and sent me The Octopus of Global Control when it came out. It's a really, really, really good read, and I recommend it highly. It's brilliantly written. Check it out. Check out Charlie's podcast, which is on the Ickonic platform, run by Jamie and Gareth Ike, but I know there's a cast of thousands involved. Macroaggressions is the name of the podcast. Do check it out. Great to have Charlie back on this programme. We've got you till the top of the hour, maybe a couple of minutes after that, so good to have you on. Will you have an election in November, do you think?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. I mean, at the rate we're going right now, who knows? I don't even know who it would benefit to cancel the election.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, you've got Joe Biden, who is, let's be honest, he's cognitively impaired at this point. And that's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
We've got Donald Trump, and well, frankly, he's cognitively impaired as well, but in a much different way. And so I don't even know if at the rate we're going, I don't know if I even want an election. I have fears about this. I have fears that no matter who wins, the other side will say, "Oh, it was tampered with. It was Russia, or it was that the Chinese, or who, name your boogeyman, that they got involved in there." So regardless of the outcome, we'll still have half the people screaming at the moon like that. That green-haired lady that shows up in all the clips when Donald Trump won. So it's going to be a circus, like it always is. But I don't know that at the rate we're going right now, with some of exposing some of these what I've been seeing from the Democratic governors lately, their hypocrisy. Boy, I think you're going to I think Donald Trump has a real chance of re-election, and then at that case, boy. You've got a president in the second term that doesn't have to worry about re-election. That'll send people into, panic for just based on that alone. It's going to be a disastrous year one way or the other, because Joe Biden's going to come in and save the day? This is a guy that is run on a platform of nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I see you've been taking the piss out of that on your Twitter feed. If you want to find Charlie, just look for Macroaggressions and Charlie just put those two terms in on Twitter. I'll send a tweet out to Charlie anyway, and you can find him. Not to be interrupting you, Charlie, but Hillary Clinton. By the way, before we talk about the Clintons, and what about those who say to people like you and me, who say you guys are too quick to dismiss the idea that China and or Russia might be interfering in elections in the West? Why wouldn't they? Why do we give country? Like, I know I won't say I've given Russia a pass, but I like what Russia has done in Syria.
Obviously, I like that, because without Russia, Assad would be dead, and it would be basket case there. I mean, it's bad enough anyway. So I applaud Putin for that. But I know that Putin is a gangster. I mean, I've done stories on Putin years ago around the Sochi Olympics when his best mates in the world were making millions out of that Olympics. I mean, he's as bent as an S-hook, I would say. But we give him a pass because we don't like what France and Israel and the UK and the United States does. But are we being a bit silly to think that they wouldn't try to interfere in our elections? Why wouldn't they? The Chinese and the Russians.
Of course they would have an interest in it. But, you know, when the Russiagate narrative came out and Hillary Clinton said, well, Russia, you know, threw the election for Donald Trump. Well, you know, if Russia cared about one of them, Donald Trump, over Hillary Clinton, why wouldn't they have chosen Hillary Clinton? I mean, they'd already been working with her on the Uranium One deal.
Yeah.
They know that she's a criminal. They know that she's a criminal they can work with. If anything, they would have skewed the election in favor of her. But I always found interesting, they say, well, China is going to try and influence the election. Of course, look, they're all going to try and influence the election as best they can. But you know who conveniently never gets named as, you know, if we want to get honest about a country manipulating the United States political system in the election,
yes.
And we're not discussing Israel.
Yeah, but we do now. To be fair, we get criticised for it. I never shut up about Israel. We do, but it's just they're not it's not the only dark actor. But you're right. Listen, Israel's influence in the UK and in the US is nearly total, in my opinion. Yes. Nobody likes to hear it, but it is, and that's the way it goes, you know. But yeah, it's just that we get criticised all the time for, you know, basically putting out this notion that China and Russia are benign when they're not. Spiro is listening to the programme and reckons the Democratic Party's real candidate might not have come forward yet. Maybe one of these Ocasio-Cortez people might. Something might happen to Creepy Joe. And I don't mean he might die, but something might come out to disgrace him in the next few weeks or the next couple of months. Before you know it, you've got one of these candidates. What do you think? No, Spiro isn't saying that. He just says he doesn't believe the real candidate has come forward. What do you think, Charlie?
Totally possible. Expect the unexpected in this presidential race. I mean, clearly he is declining, and I think that there could be a case made that the Democrats would like to have somebody in a leadership position that's totally impaired and declining, because then they can just run their programs without much oversight from him or interference. But I would expect that anything is on the table. I mean, it's 2020.
Yeah.
Should we not expect some a switcheroo with the Democratic president, Donald Trump dropping out miraculously? So anything's on the table at this point. I wouldn't put anything past these globalist maniacs. But I'll tell you one thing that is without question is that they will keep us stuck down on the farm, fighting in the two-state paradigm of right versus left, fighting about which candidate, our red team is better than the blue team. They'll keep us down arguing about all that stuff while they loot this place, while we're not paying attention to who the real rulers are. So I watch the elections. I follow it. Obviously, it has an impact, but I'm not so blind as to think that the president of the United States actually has all of the decision-making powers. I think that there are many, many people, layers and levels above him, that make the decisions. But we treat them as, it's our figurehead, and we march them out and we pretend that they have this authority. But I think Spiro is not too far off on this one.
Good stuff. Charlie Robinson is our guest. We've got Charlie for another 10, 12 minutes. He'll be back real soon, actually, to spend a longer segment with us, because he's got a book coming out. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before that, another thing we should hammer China for is the social crediting system they've introduced over there. Hey, Charlie, do you remember that video that came out a couple of years ago? It was on Twitter. It was of an English guy travelling in China, and I thought it was a spoof. He was listening to an announcement over the loudspeaker system on the train, and it was like something out of some futuristic science fiction movie, basically warning people not to be bad citizens and loiter around the train station, that there would be consequences for doing that. And I couldn't believe it. So we see this in China. Is the next step after the virus, is it inevitably going to be something like that manifesting in the West, in the UK, in France, in Germany, in Israel, and of course in the United States, where will be expected to do things for the good of other people, like get the bloody vaccine, you know, like accept that we've got unconscious bias. Because I don't know about you, Charlie, but I've just come to accept that I've got unconscious bias and I need some re-education, basically. so this is where it's going, right? So we should hammer China more, because if this ends up over here, we got to blame the Chinese for it, because our filthy, corrupt politicians have looked at it and they've gone, brilliant idea, China. Let's import it over here. How do you see that going?
Well, I'm in agreement with you. Unfortunately, that the social credit system that has been rolled out in places like Shenzhen is very dangerous, and it is a precursor of what is coming our way. So in Shenzhen, if you get on it, let's say you're a smoker, you get on a bus, you're smoking a cigarette, facial recognition camera in the top of that bus that's watching everybody on there will ID you, tie you to your the cell phone in your pocket, issue you, by the time you get off that bus, you go walk around the corner, your cell phone will ping. You will have been issued a fine that is already deducted from your account through QR code system that they currently have set up, and you'll get a text message saying that you were found to have been smoking on this train.
Wow.
You've been fined 15 pounds or whatever, and it's been automatically deducted from your account. Have a nice day. Don't do it again. And your social credit score goes down. Now, that sounds like something out of a Philip K. Dick book, but that is real.
It's real.
It is happening now. And this system is set to be exported out to other countries. They've already exported it to Ecuador and started this system there in localized spots. And the plan is for this to be a worldwide situation, so that you can't, now in China, you can't get on if you're a bad citizen, you smoke, you gamble, you play too many video games online. I'm not even kidding about this. All of these things work to lower your social credit score. If you get to a point where your score is too low, you can't get on that train. You can't get on the bus. You can't get on the airplane. They brag about the number of people, the flights and trips that have been blocked due to low social scores. And in conjunction with that, your score impacts your friends and family. So if you have a low score and your friends call you and they have a high score, their score goes down because they're associating with you. So think
and they
of
publish this, Charlie, do they?
Ramifications.
This is mad, Charlie. This is published, isn't it? They publish this so everybody can see it. So you've got the humiliation factor as well as the terrifying tyranny. You've got the humiliation factor. You could be looking and go, "Oh Jesus, Richie Allen's credit score is dreadful. Look at that. He's spent too much time watching football." And you know, somebody said something about him. And you know, on that, Charlie, two things happened last week. Very famous rugby player called Gareth Thomas, who's gay, was on television saying that gay people need allies. Silence is complicity with homophobia. You need to be seen to be doing something. And you've got the best racing driver that probably ever lived, Lewis Hamilton, saying that, again, silence is complicity. And I could see that becoming part of social crediting, whereby you would need to be, you know, you would feel some sort of external pressure to do stuff like Charlie, you'd feel the need to sometimes go on Twitter and say nice things about transgender people, even though you really don't care one way or the other. You just don't care. But I better say stuff. I better say something nice about somebody. I mean, this is real, isn't it? This is not a figment of anybody's imagination.
Richie, you've tweeted 1,000 times this month.
Yeah.
But you're far below your quota of social justice related tweets.
Imagine
if you don't raise those numbers, then what we're going to see is you're going to be put in Facebook jail or Twitter jail or whatever. Your social credit score will go down. I could absolutely see this coming. It is forced. Well, of course, it's straight out of Black Mirror too, because there's an episode of Black Mirror where everybody has their phones, and when they interact with each other, they have to smile really big, and then they rate that person, and everybody's faking it. They're faking it. You know, so it at some point you'll become North Korea, right? Or at least the version of North Korea that we're shown on our TV, which is everybody's waving their flags and has the picture of dear leader in their house, and they smile and they clap and they cry and they do all these things. They're so enthusiastic, and then the government official leaves, and it's like, okay, back to reality. So I can certainly see this happening as a way to force compliance. I mean, we are already starting to see it. We're just seeing it in the form of social coercion by friends and family trying to shame you into not doing it. But if the shaming doesn't work, or if they want to take that up a notch, then they absolutely could go back and say, you're not quite as enthusiastic of a cheerleader for the LGBT community, and that's a problem. And so therefore you've been deleted off of this platform.
You'll be terrified to even think something. I'm going to put myself into a bit of trouble here now, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it anyway. My mentor passed away a few years ago. I learned a lot from him, a guy called Billy. He was a great radio presenter, and Billy was gay. And I loved him. I loved the man. Loved everything about him, and all the time I spent with him. No virtue signal in there. I just never cared about somebody's sexuality. It never bothered me. But there are things I don't like, and things I find a bit shocking. And I think I should be allowed to say that I find those things shocking. I bought my missus a celebrity magazine today, Charlie, for the laugh, right? Honest to God, right? It came out this morning, Tuesday's edition of Closer magazine, Charlie. Loads of paparazzi pictures in there of people that I never even heard of. But there's a story in there about Caden Coleman. Caden is a trans man, so a woman who identifies as a man. And Caden is with a man and just gave birth to his second child. So it's really a woman who identifies as a man, and he's married. Now, I'm going to say it, and I'm not saying it to offend anybody, to hurt anybody. That's a fucking freak show, that. I mean, that is, it is to me, right? I'm not Christian. I'm not, I'm agnostic when it comes to religion. To me, that is just ridiculous. And I should be able to think that. And if somebody asks me my opinion on it, I should be able to say that. But of course, there's no chance I could ever say it. I can only say it now because I'm on my radio show with my own stream, with no boss and nobody to answer for. But if I said that anywhere else, well, I'm gone, right? Forget about it. You'll never see me again.
Yeah, it's the most devious form of censorship ever, and that is self-censorship. It's impossible to quantify. It will impact the way you outwardly project yourself into the world. It'll change your view of reality. It's really devious. The self-censorship part is, the compliance with society. Yeah. It makes it very difficult to feel authentic when you're constantly censoring who you are. And I think that takes a psychological toll on people that feel like they're not now. And you can. And why do I think that that's the case? Just look at, since we're talking about homosexuals, look at closeted homosexuals that are forced to lie about who they are their whole life and self-censor. It's devastating for them. I feel horrible for them. They should feel the ability, to come forward, and they have, a lot of them have their reasons. Maybe their religion doesn't support it, or their family doesn't support it, or their friends or family, or maybe they're a professional athlete and it's not really socially accepted. And so they have to measure all of these things, of these forms of self-censorship of who you really are or what you really think, has a traumatizing effect on people. It's very damaging. And so we're going to be put into this society, or we're actually actively walking into this society where censorship is everywhere, and low IQ morons are treating censorship as a form of patriotism. Which is a weird way to tie these things together, where, you have to, keep that person shut up because we don't want to hear what they have to say because America, and you're like, what? How does this work? So it's going to have a cascading effect on society. And when you tie in a social credit system to that as well, you're asking for trouble. And and who even knows what sort of ramifications this will have on children, because for them to grow up in a world where they're constantly told that they have to think one thing and they have to have, tranny story time, with a bunch of 4 and 5 year olds. And, we're getting down this path to the video clip of Tom DeLay. It was a United States House of Representative from Oklahoma, I believe, who talked about this on video, that there's 12 forms of perversion that they're pushing to legalize. And when he said this, people kind of dismissed him and said, get out of here with that. But I think he's right. And one of it that he talked about was the transgendered situation and pushing to normalize that into kids and pedophilia. And so we're starting to see, hang on a second, there is a little bit of this being pushed out slowly. They're trying to condition us. And so we are on the verge of a transformation of society that if we don't stand up and I'm not trying to say that, to be anti-homosexual. I'm not saying that at all. I grew up in Palm Springs, California, where it's a half the population is gay. It's a huge gay community. So to me, it was always normalized. But there are a lot of people out there that are very uncomfortable with that, and they see that as possibly dangerous. And so this push now to legalize and promote everything, the transgender agenda and the multiple 54 different genders that you have. What is going on here? This isn't accidental. Yeah. It seems coordinated, and it's part of an agenda. What is this? And so it's something that we need to be aware of moving forward.
Brilliant, Charlie. We'll get into that next time, because you'll be on real soon again. We'll have you back on real soon. Charlie Robinson, you've been listening to this hour. Tell us about the book with Jeff Berwick. Before you do that, The Octopus of Global Control, folks, a very, very well put together book. And if you've got a friend, if you've got a brother or a sister who's been a bit spooked by what's been happening with the lockdown and they're beginning to see things a bit differently, it's a terrific book. I recommend it. Charlie, the new book then, Jeff Berwick is involved. Tell us about it. We've got about 3.5 minutes left. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, Jeff Berwick and I sat down one day after an interview, kind of like you and I are doing, and we started to talk about where we saw the world going, and he said, it's all coming down, kind of in a Jeff sort of way, as you know. You and I love Jeff. He's got a way. It's all coming down, man. The whole system's coming down. And what I said was, he said we should write about that. We kind of feel like an obligation to let people know. So the book is called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, and we draw the parallels the way you would rig a building for demolition. How you would identify the foundation, or check the foundation, identify the support columns, rig the detonators, clear the areas, push down the plunger, all of the things that you would do when you're rigging a building, like a building 7, for instance, for demolition, is the way that this American empire has been rigged. Some of the supporting structure has been taken out over years and years of policy and other aspects of the government ready to just be blown out of existence. And we were lucky. We were so fortunate that we didn't get it to the publisher before we had a chance to write in the coronavirus situation. So we were able to incorporate that into the book. It should be out in a couple of weeks. And of course, Jeff and I will connect with you to share about that. And also, I got to say that you've got Neal Sanders coming on. Yeah, and Neal and I don't know him personally, but I love his work. And he and I were in the same documentary together called 2020 Prime for Panic, which is on the Ickonic network. It's directed by the great Richard Willits. It's phenomenal. It's available now also on Vimeo. People can rent that or buy it. They can check it out. And that was done about this current lockdown situation that we had. And Richard did a really fantastic job of capturing
Richard.
That.
I must get him back on, actually. He's a good lad. I haven't seen it. I think he may have sent me a link to it. But I will get him
watching.
On.
It's amazing.
Will you and Jeff come back when the book is out? I know you'll get me a copy of it. I'll read it before you come on.
Of course.
And PDF is good enough for me. And we'll do that. Congratulations on the podcast and all of that, Charlie. I really appreciate you coming on. You're great value. I really mean that. So,
thank you, Richie.
Get right back on. Thanks, mate. You're too kind. Get right back on when the book is out. And again, folks, Macroaggressions with Charlie Robinson. Charlie Robinson is a podcast on the Ickonic platform. And I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. So really appreciate your time today, mate. You're great. You came on at short notice as well, Charlie. So thank you very much, mate.
Oh, you're the best, Richie. Thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate you.
Look after yourself. Charlie Robinson, top man, live on the Richie Allen Radio Show for Tuesday, the 7th of July, 2020. A red letter day is Tuesday, the 7th of July. It's 2 minutes past the hour. Of course, 15 years ago, the 7th of July, so-called terror attacks. Just to clear something up, I never said that I think that people didn't die. When I said this morning on Twitter that it was a staged event, I mean that it was planned by those who blamed Mohammed Sadiq Khan and his comrades, his colleagues. I'm absolutely sure people died, and lots of people died, and hundreds were injured. It's a dreadful thing. But I certainly do not believe for a minute that it is a coincidence. When Peter Power said, Jesus, we were running a drill today at exactly the same locations, envisaging the exact same scenario. You know, Yeah. So now it's 3 minutes past the hour. Do you want to hear Texas? Yeah? Texas. This is Charlene Spiteri and Texas, and a song called I Don't Want to Love Her. When we come back from this terrific tune, I'll be joined by Neal Sanders of nealsandersmindcontrol.com. Don't want to miss him. He's a top man as well. Back in a minute. Charlene Spiteri on the Richie Allen Radio Show. The band is called Texas, of course, and I Don't Want a Lover. The time is exactly 5.5 minutes past the hour. My next guest did some outstanding journalism on the meddling around Brexit, the meddling around the US election. Cambridge Analytica. It's brilliant stuff. You can find all of it at nealsandersmindcontrol.com. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's stellar work. You don't see too much of it these days. He's got a master's in film studies. He is a qualified hypnotherapist, but he's probably best known, I think, for his work on mind control, and he's been studying that for many years. And when we first met him on this program, he was superb, educating this audience on what mind control is and how it's used on television and advertising and how it's shaped our thinking and our consciousness over the decades. Let's welcome him back. I said this week and last week, it's nice to invite back some of our favourite guests to just shoot the breeze about some of the big stories of the last couple of weeks and the last few months. The lockdown, obviously, the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, the forthcoming US election, and all the rest of it. Neal Sanders has also got a programme airing on the Ickonic platform. We will talk about that as well. Welcome back, Neal Sanders. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Richie. How are you?
I'm not bad, mate, thanks. And I do want to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and all the rest of it. But I've got to obviously start off because it's been a while since we spoke to get your take on the lockdown. Like me, you do your research before you do any interview, so you'll know what I think of it. I'm not going to waste my time and your time by repeating it. What have you felt about it? How do you feel about what's been happening and why it's happening?
Well, I don't like it, obviously. Like, it's very, very boring and it's annoying. My particular take on it is that it should have been sorted out ages ago. They really, really should have just reacted quicker and took it seriously. But you had two people basically there. You had like Boris Johnson doing his speech to the Tory donors, saying that he was going to be a Superman for the economy and that he wasn't going to be bothered by this little virus thing that was floating around. And so basically, and then you've got Dominic Cummings, who basically, spelled it out. Save the economy, herd immunity. Who cares if a few pensioners die? And that was the decision that was made. They decided they had a choice. They could have locked down and it would have been a pain in the arse. And basically like New Zealand or Vietnam or South Korea or Germany or anywhere like this. Or they could have done the Japan route. They could have gone with the sort of isolating people who are ill and just, taking sensible precautions. But they didn't. They mucked about, they waited, and they sacrificed a load of pensioners, basically, is my particular take on it. They knew what was going to happen. They just weighed it up and went, we don't care. We don't want to put our hands in our pockets. Or it's really more that the donors don't really want to put their hands in their pockets. Specific to the lockdown, I don't really like it. But if you were to look side by side comparatively with Vietnam to America, for example, Vietnam's done particularly well. They got the virus at exactly the same time as America. They locked down, treated it seriously. America didn't. America's got 130. Well, they've got a lot more dead than that because of the way they actually count it. But they've got at least 130,000 dead. Now they've come out of the lockdown again, particularly because people like Roy DeSantis was fiddling the figures. Basically, what they were doing was they were lying about the tests. They were double testing. Because you do a swab in the nose and the mouth, they basically said, oh, that counts as 2 negatives. But of course, if those 2 were positives, that counts as 1 positive. And basically, they were fiddling the stats so that they could present it to the public, so that they could reopen Florida. Now Florida's in a bit of a mess, to be quite honest. So I don't know really, mate. I hate it. I really hate it. But I've been describing it like it's like buying Christmas presents on Christmas Eve from a petrol station, right? We really shouldn't. We really, really shouldn't. This is the worst. This is the worst idea. But it is 9:30 at night, and if you've got a better idea, I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, my concern, and leave aside the conservative media for a minute. My concern is, and I can name them. I can name the ones at Oxford University. I can name the ones at Yale and at Harvard. There are a number of epidemiologists and doctors who have said from day one that the lockdown was basically a nonsense. There was no need for it. And they've basically been precluded from appearing on our national news media. And that's obviously of great concern to me. And obviously of great concern to me is this is the first time in history we've quarantined people. We've quarantined healthy people to allegedly protect those who are most vulnerable. And what's ironic about that is that the government on the one hand were saying we need to do that. You won't get an argument from me about doing everything you can to keep people who are vulnerable safer. But while the government was saying that, the government was, according to some, Neil, deliberately letting senior citizens out of hospitals to free up beds and sending them into care homes where the majority of people seem to have died. I've got the figures up to the 7th of July in front of me now, and they're astonishing reading. So my common sense, and I'm like you, I'm bright. Like you, I'm completely unbiased. Nobody's putting any pressure on me to say anything. To me, it looks like from day one, they've been assigning people on their death certificates. They've been basically writing people off as having died of COVID. Very senior people who had very serious problems and who wouldn't have seen out the winter anyway. This is how I see it, right? So, for me, the lockdown, what I believe it to be is the virus itself, whatever it is, has been taken as an excuse to introduce pure tyranny to our society.
No, I'm with you totally.
That's what I believe, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I actually think that they know exactly what they were doing by moving people into the care homes and stuff like that. Like, with regards to the sort of old people, that's something that I've heard a lot of. Oh, these people were old, they would have died anyway, and stuff like that. If your gran got hit by a lorry, would you go, it's all right, mate, it's all right, she was old, it's fine. Like, regardless of whether they were, not long of this world, they still had life in them, and...
but you're trying to allege. Hang on, you're going to do that today. I know you're going to do it. I know, and we will talk about Trump in a minute. I'm not the right wing media. I'm the last living socialist in the United Kingdom, at least from a broadcast sense. Anyway, the last thing in the world I want to see is anything happen to old people. The point I'm making is that 650,000 people a year die from flu. Let me give you the facts. It's mostly old people. What you've done is you've said, right, and Dr. Vernon Coleman is 75 years of age. He said what you've done is to protect, but this is what I hate Boris Johnson more than you do. What they've said is, we need to protect old people. What you've done is you've actually inflicted upon the young and the middle-aged God knows what sort of health complications and conditions as a very result of the lockdown itself. I'm talking about mental health and other problems as well. And guys like that, they just can't see the sense of it. It's not a case of you just say, oh, fuck them, they're going to die anyway in the winter. It's not people saying that. That's how it happens every year, is what I'm saying.
Well, actually, it's 17,000 deaths in flu on average every year. I know this for a fact because basically a couple of months ago, a very, very anti-coronavirus sort of site saying that it wasn't serious and even that the virus wasn't real and stuff like this had bothered to do this. So they basically got the stats up to just before April and compared it to all the flu seasons over the last few years. And apparently it's 17,000 a year in the UK. And we've had a few thousand of that already. As far as I can see, basically, now this is where I agree with you and disagree with you, right, Richie? Because basically, what I think has happened, and there's a reason for the death certificates. Basically, it's about how death is recorded. Like, you can go and check the MVSS and the WHO and all the stuff like. It's called an IO7 code, and it's IO7-1s and IO7-2s. IO7-1 is tested in a hospital care home setting and tested positive, right? So that's the figure that you're getting on the news, the 44,000, right? Okay. What's interesting in that is that basically on none of these cases does COVID is it ever as the cause of death. It is always a contributing factor, and that's because there's a lot of misinformation about how the virus actually works. The virus doesn't kill you, it's an immunosuppressant. So what it does is either basically it causes your immune system to attack itself, which causes what's called a cytokine response. And what happens is basically your lungs explode from the inside, and it looks like a sort of glass grenade's gone off. And as a response to that, basically, it produces this really weird pneumatic fluid, which is full of blood clots. And it's like nothing that they've ever seen before, because it won't respond to antibiotics. And that's why basically when they're putting people on heavy intubation, it's actually killing them, because there's literally no room in their lungs. They're full of this particular fluid. So
you shouldn't give an antibiotic to anybody for a virus anyway. It's insane.
You don't do it for the virus. It's for specifically for the pneumatic fluid. That's the normal way that you would treat pneumonia, and they're finding that this doesn't work like that, basically. So the long and short of it is that basically either that happens, or your immune system is so overwhelmed that basically something you've been living with, like high blood pressure or diabetes or some sort of like heart condition or something like that, all of a sudden you have no defenses against that, and so it kills you that way. And so the better way of describing all of it would be like saying, well, nobody's ever died of AIDS, because that's just not how it kills you. Basically, AIDS provides the scenario whereby, again, you have no immune response, and basically
infection kills
like bronchial pneumonia kills you. And this is exactly how COVID works. And so there's a bit of a misconception about that died with and died of. Now, going back to the codes, okay, basically there's an IO72 code. Now, what that is anybody that they suspect has got it, and they don't add that to the numbers that they're showing you on the news, right? So what they do with that is, so basically they can track where the disease is going, say like an old lady's died, right, okay, and you think she's died of an asthma attack, but her neighbour said, well, she did say she had this symptom and this symptom and this symptom. You've got two choices. You can either basically go, right, let's mark her down as a potential one, because then we can see if there's a pattern emerging with age, people's conditions, that sort of thing. We can also basically warn people that this is a potentially contagious body, and so we won't necessarily cause any problems with the funeral home and all the patients or the doctors and stuff like that. Or you could just flat ignore it. And so they do the first one because it's sensible, and that's what's called the IO72 code. Now, if you look at the stats in England, actually all of the deaths are actually at normal levels according to the ONS, including flu and including pneumonia. And then there's about 44,000 deaths attributed to COVID, which would be an IO71 positive code. There's about 9,000 attributed to IO72, so that's the people that they suspect. So that's a lot lower than I thought it would be. But there's an excess death at the moment, mostly in care homes, as you say, of about 65,000 people. Right, so this is where I agree with you, because basically I think they're fiddling with the stats. I think they moved people into it, but I think they're lowballing the stats. I think what their plan was to move these people into the care homes, and two things happen. One, you kill a load of pensioners who just so happen to cost you an absolute shed load of money.
Yeah.
The second thing that you can do is what's happened now. Boris Johnson came out just yesterday and says, well, we blame the care home, the blah, blah, blah. You didn't provide them PPE. You didn't provide them with any regulations. In fact, there was a policy decision, Richie, a policy that came out that said we're moving 25,000, as you know, 25,000 people with COVID into care homes.
That's right.
We're not providing with you with PPE. We're not providing you with testing. And if one person comes down with it, don't isolate. Close off the entire thing, right? Entire care home, which ensured that everybody got it. Now, a lot of these people weren't getting tested. So you've got a huge amount. You've got, say, about 20,000 extra people floating around that have died that are like, oh, we don't know what this is about. Now, to me, it looks like they've basically probably died from the disease as well. And that was the whole point. The government, here's the facts. They knew that this disease exists. They knew it was killing vulnerable people. They took people with the disease and they put them next to vulnerable people. Okay, that's what happened. And then we've got this confusing amount of these vulnerable people who are dead somehow.
Yeah, gone, yeah,
and it totally plays into the government's hands, because what they're going to do off the back of this, which I've been saying for months, is they're going to use it to privatise the NHS by blaming the staff. They're going to say, well, these poor sods, they just couldn't cope with it, and there was us clapping. Don't you feel bad? Like, don't you feel angry now that you clap for these sods? And
well, there was a big row, wasn't it? There was a big row today because late last evening that goon of a Prime Minister took it upon himself to allege that people running care homes weren't really doing the right things, and there's a big row brewing over that. I believe you're right, they were deliberately put in. The stats,
that's their alibi. That's
their alibi, and I think you're right.
Down this route of they're killing people because that gives the government an out. All this like, oh no, it was other things. There's an element of that. There's an element of people who have died through sort of effective isolation, not being able to get to relatives, fear of phoning the hospital, having appointments cancelled. There is an element of that, but to attribute the entirety or the majority of those deaths actually plays into the government's to attribute them those deaths to that,
and we know they want to privatise the NHS, and
falls into their hand because that's their alibi that they.
And you've been writing about that for years. My final point on this, and I'll give you the final word on it, then we'll move on to Maxwell. Neal Sanders, mindcontrol.com, terrific website, great writer is Neil. I can't recommend the books on mind control highly enough. Great guy. Right, up until today, through the crisis, 20 deaths of those aged between 0 and 19, 209 deaths, 20 to 39, 2,245, 40 to 59, and then it gets nasty, 60 to 79, 10,994, and then 80 plus, 15,471. Now, I heard everything you said a minute ago. I'm making the argument regularly that even if a third of that 26,000 old people that died, even if a third of them, and I think that's been generous, I think, to the people who would disagree with me, if only a third of them had very, very serious health conditions anyway, which is very likely if they were in health, anything would have killed them. And I know the stats for flu in 2014, 2015, and how bad it was and how many people were killed, particularly old people. This is what I'm going to say, and I'm going to give you the final word. Of course, the virus is genuine. I had something rotten over the late December, early January to late January period. I couldn't breathe. I've never smoked in my life. The doctors hadn't a Scooby-Doo, Neil. They hadn't a clue. They said, we don't understand why you don't have any sputum, why you don't have any phlegm. We can see you're in distress. They hadn't a clue. But because I'm very fit and I'm very strong, I managed to get over it. And I'm used to having asthma, and I managed to get over it. So the virus is real, whatever it is. How vicious it is or not, that's up for debate. Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe, and I'll give you the final word. What I believe is the lockdown's a tyranny. Should never close down the economy, take children out of school, put hundreds of thousands of people on a furlough scheme. I can't believe that a so-called party of the workers didn't argue against this from day one. I think where this is all going, it's going to mandatory vaccines for people. They're admitting it as we speak, that there will be no return to the so-called old way of doing things until we have a vaccine, and they're going to make it virtually impossible for people not to take it. You're going to be in tyranny then. If people think they're not in tyranny now, you'll be in tyranny then. And I think, it's not because I want to believe that, that's the way I read that evidence. Final word on this to you, and then we'll talk about the Gillian Maxwell study.
I agree with you on that, Richie, right? Because this is the point. This is what I've been trying to say. That's what's so galling about it. It won't hurt me, it won't hurt you. Well, this is some people are having problems, like, long term. Like my friend in New York, he knows people who, like, his next door neighbour caught it and he can't walk up and down the stairs anymore. He's totally knackered from it. But it won't kill me, it won't kill you. And this is the weird thing. If it had been handled better, we wouldn't have needed to. This had been done and dusted ages ago. Is the lockdown the best method? Don't know. Again, I think we should have probably done other things, but I think we should have done those things 4 weeks earlier when Sage and people like that were advising it, and they didn't. They listened to Ben Warner of Faculty AI and Palantir and Dominic Cummings. And basically, again, I just want to say about the thing as well, the track and trace. The whole point about that as well. I'm with you on all this sort of the tyranny. They've made hay whilst the sun shines.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of the track and trace is to steal your NHS records.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
well
they're not even shy about that. It's Palantir, for Christ's sake. That's what Palantir do. They're a data mining organisation. Why do they want to steal your NHS data? I'll tell you for why. Because they want to sell it to American companies. Why? Well, because of the trade deal that we're
100% right. You're 100% right. Listen, I love having you on because we always argue, but I agree with you. Like I said, I see this happening. I know it's happening. And it is. And I just wish, listen, I don't wish that you would agree with me, but I just wish that more people would go, wow, they're doing all this, they're privatising the NHS, the track and trace is tyrannical, the vaccine. Maybe they've lied about how serious the virus is all along. And that's why I believe they have done. And I don't want to kill old people. You know what I would have done from day one? And it's only because I've listened to 1,000 doctors over the years, interesting men and women from all over the world. From day one, what? A virus? Shit. It's a bit nasty, is it? Right. Let's get every senior citizen in this country. Let's get them natural. Let's dose them up to the tits on vitamin D and vitamin C. Let's look after them. Let's tell them they've got to stay indoors a little bit more than they usually would. Be a bit careful about it, because this might be a bit dirty, but don't lock down the country. And don't introduce this tyranny. That's all. That's my final word on it.
Well, I think the thing that we definitely agree on, right, okay, is that it could have been handled differently, and it could have been handled a lot better, and there was no need for any of these people to die. And I'm telling you now, in a few weeks when it comes out that the death toll is a lot higher, they're going to do exactly what they did now: blame the care homes and blame the nurses and blame the doctors, and don't let them do that. Okay?
They're the scum of the earth, Neil, these people. You and I both know that. They are the scum of the earth. And I think Labour missed an open goal, because Labour have decided that let's beat Johnson up by saying that his indecision is killing people, when they really could have said, listen, Johnson has flip-flopped 2 or 3 times on all of this. You know, they could tell the truth about what's happening in the care homes, but they've decided not to for their own reasons, Labour. But I'm not going to get into that. Hey, listen, let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and Donald Trump. I mean, I've been watching Fox News since the 1990s. And so when I hear that Fox News is airbrushing photographs of Donald Trump I mean, it's no surprise to me. Donald Trump is about as dirty a human being as you could possibly hope to ever come across in your entire life. Ghislaine is in custody. First of all, is she ever going to see a trial?
I would be very worried if I was her. Like, very, very worried indeed. I'd be very worried if I was Bill Clinton and Donald Trump too, but I'd be less worried. I'd be more worried if I was her, to be quite honest, because I've just got a sneaky suspicion. Has she been sent to the same place that Epstein was sent to?
No, I don't know. I can't find out. They said they might send her there.
Somewhere in New York, but I don't know if it's the same place.
With the narcoleptic guards and the missing cameras, I
looked into that, right? This is what happened with Epstein's death, right? Okay, so just like on July the 23rd, he made a suicide attempt, apparently, where he tried to hang himself. And after coming round, he said that he was actually attacked by his cellmate, a bloke called Nicholas Taglioni or something like that. The mafia is going to come into this, Richie, right? Okay, August the 8th, he signs all his assets to a trust, and he's put on suicide watch, and he's supposed to have a cellmate and be checked every 30 minutes, but that never happens, right? On the night of his death, apparently both guards fell asleep for 3 hours. 3 cameras simultaneously malfunctioned, right? And he hung himself with sheets. Now, these sheets are basically paper thin. You're not supposed to be able to hang yourself with them. Also, he had far more sheets in his cell than he was supposed to have, which is weird. And he'd been dead for 2 hours before he was found. Now, weirdly, his death was posted, the fact that he had died in custody was posted on a message board on 4chan 38 minutes before the media announced it.
Was it really? Wow.
Yes, apparently so.
Is that right? Wow.
Now, that sounds like basically one of the guards has done it, to be quite honest. I don't think it's as conspiratorial. It's not Q. I'm telling you that now.
No.
It was, but I think it was probably. It looks like it's one of the guards or someone who works there. But he had bones broken in his neck that indicate strangling or death by strangulation rather than hanging. And the wound that sort of where the ligature or whatever, the noose, cut into his throat was really, really thin. So basically, it looks like he's actually been garroted from behind with wire, and that's actually how he's died.
Yeah.
So
the Sicilian way of dying, and his brother employed a respected retired coroner to look into it, and that coroner said the guy was murdered, effectively. Yeah,
pretty much, and it certainly looks like that. But then he was, they're not going to look into it. Basically, Epstein, to my view, and Ghislaine probably, well, definitely, it's an intelligence thing. It's filming dignitaries and anybody who you want to get leverage over with children, and this has been going on since the 50s, basically. Like in the artichoke, like the MK artichoke. This is what I think I was the first person to sort of to talk about Epstein in this sense, like on Rich Planet. But basically, he's transporting young girls across state lines, which is like totally
trafficking, yeah.
And he's got like all these houses wide for sound and video, and that's exactly what they did with Claudia Mullin and Christine Di Nicola, who were witnesses that basically got an apology from Bill Clinton in 1995. And this was part of like the Artichoke program, and they were. Aged 9 years old, they were taken to a place in Maryland called Deep Creek Cabins, and there they were trained to be prostitutes by the CIA. And the whole point of this was again to entrap men. So this sort of like ding 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 ding. Oh, this is exactly the same thing that Epstein was doing when he got arrested in like 2008. And where Ghislaine comes into it is basically her and Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein have been mates for years, like years and years and years, like since at least the 90s. I mean, they're all mates. Like, you know, the Clintons are mates with them, like the Prince Andrew's mates with them. Like these guys all run in the same set, basically. And Ghislaine picked up Virginia Roberts, who's now Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who's the sort of the blonde girl who's like the main witness. She picked her up at Mar-a-Lago, which is, you know, Donald Trump's hotel and golf resort, where she was working as a cloakroom attendant, and was immediately hired to be Jeffrey's personal masseuse. Yeah. But yeah, there's loads. I mean, like a lot of people basically give Trump the sort of benefit of the doubt and go, oh well. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but he actually kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out about this. You know, the evidence to support that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That was an anonymous source that came out on something like Fox News or on the right-wing media. It's never been attributed to anybody.
Is that right? Now, I want to dig down into this. Spiro, who's a really good reporter, journalist and broadcaster, says on Neal's point, which is a good one about where is she being held. She's being held in Brooklyn. Epstein was held in Manhattan. That makes sense. They couldn't have justified sending her to the place in Manhattan. Nobody would have believed it. But I'll tell you what I believe about Trump. And I can say this, and I pride myself. I get a little bit of stick for this because I can be, hey, listen, we all have an ego. I can be a little bit arrogant every now and then. I pride myself on my approach to broadcasting and not libeling people. Here it goes. Donald Trump is a filthy paedophile. He is. It's a fact. It's a stone cold fact. Okay?
You know about Tom Barrack?
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Let's go down that road.
Well, Tom Barrack basically is like his mate. And throughout the sort of 80s and 90s, also the 90s to be accurate, Tom Barrack and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were known as the Three Musketeers. And basically they went around basically trying to get a load of girls. And this was helped in no short course by the fact that Donald Trump's model management agency was trafficking foreign girls. This isn't even like denied. Like they were illegally moving foreign girls into America for modeling opportunities, Richie. Now, call me an old cynic, right? But you know, when you're moving sort of beautiful young Ukrainian girls halfway across the world illegally without, you know, going through the trouble of getting them passports or moving them through customs or anything like that, there is a possibility, a slim possibility, that some of these girls could have gone into escorting. And it's absolutely ridiculous. You know what's interesting as well, right, is the mafia thing that runs through this, particularly through Roy Cohn, who was Donald Trump's mentor. And he was the lawyer involved with McCarthy. Now, what's really interesting, you know, the sort of like, everyone's a communist. What's really interesting is that there's rumours that McCarthy was a little bit grabby with his hands around young girls, which would be an interesting way for someone like Roy Cohn to get leverage over him. Anyway, Roy Cohn apparently admitted to being part of the child sex ring in Omaha in the
that's right, well done, that's right,
right,
this is Lawrence E. King Stone. And all that,
so this is Roger Stone describing Roy Cohn. Roy was not gay. He was a man who liked having sex with men. Gays were weak, effeminate. He seemed to have these young blonde boys around. It just wasn't discussed. He was interested in power and access. And it's, oh, come on. Like, what? But so the point that I was trying to make is that basically this blackmail tactic, particularly with anything that could jeopardize a career, was a tactic of the mafia. Like, for example, Clyde Tolson. People might know who Clyde Tolson is. Clyde Tolson is the lover of J. Edgar Hoover. And they had photographs of them in flagrante. And by this, basically, the mafia were able to hold incredible sway over J. Edgar Hoover, to the point where he denied the existence of the mafia altogether.
He did.
Wasn't just Roy Cohn was a consigliere to Fat Tony Salerno and also to Paul Castellano. And yeah, did you know that Trump Tower is the largest largest building in the world with no steel in it?
I did not know that.
Do you know what's significant about that?
No.
Well, at the time when it was built, basically there was a strike with the concrete mixers in New York, and it was just impossible to get hold of any concrete. So everyone was building steel buildings. For some reason, Donald Trump, who obviously his mentor is Roy Cohn, consigliere to Fat Tony Salerno, decided instead to go a different route. He paid 3 times as much for his concrete to Fat Tony Salerno's concrete company. Right?
Yeah.
So you've got models being brought in and out. You've got Jeffrey Epstein. Basically, what was the famous? I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. Yeah. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. There's that Donald Trump. I like the video of Donald Trump where he's sweating. He's got that unmistakable sheen of somebody who's really, really, really gacked up. And he just can't keep his mouth still, and with Epstein, and he's just sort of desperately flitting from one place to other like a sort of amphetamine riddled meerkat, and and he's just like, come on, like. And
is that why can we connect those activities to Trump's successful campaign in 2016?
I would imagine so, because the other thing that runs through all of these things is the CIA, and the intelligence agencies, because this is what the CIA do. The CIA and the mafia have a very strange intertwined relationship with regards to getting stuff done, like, Johnny Rosselli and Santos Traficante in the Bay of Pigs and stuff like that.
JFK's murder, of course, yeah.
Yeah, quite. And turning a blind eye, basically, the overthrow of Cuba, and the moving of drugs into America and stuff like that. There's got to be a CIA involvement with that, with regards to the mafia. So again, I think that they have this really sort of this run through, and we know, if you look at basically who's behind Cambridge Analytica and who's behind the Heritage Foundation, which is the organisation, the think tank that basically Donald Trump had to audition in front of before they would allow him to be the
candidate, the Republican.
The CIA. We know this because basically they receive funding from the CIA, from the Unification Church of Sun Myung Moon, basically, and it's full of the elites of America. It's the Koch brothers, and the DeVos family, and all the banking guys and the oil guys and the Wilkes brothers. And
what about the Crown Corporation in the City of London?
Yeah, all of that. That's the point. And then, this is the other end of it, is that basically Cambridge Analytica, which was the weapon that was used to get Donald Trump into power, it's a weapon. It's a weapon of British intelligence. It's under export control, and the company has a List X clearance, which means that basically it is allowed to hold documents pertaining to British intelligence of classification secret and higher, which means it can. It's like Stratfor or one of these other things. It's a non-governmental organisation that's connected to the intelligence agencies. and has to be checked out with the intelligence agencies before a campaign can be used. And basically what they use the campaign for is mind control campaigns in order to influence votes. And so, I mean, why something like this exists, it goes totally against the concept of democracy.
Well, you've written about how sophisticated it is, and nobody's done, I've never read anybody that's ever put it together like you. It's unbelievably sophisticated. They managed to convince people, I think mostly decent people with genuine grievances, who are fed up of America dropping bombs on countries all over the world, who are fed up with jobs being exported to other parts of the world, and, you know, manufacturing industries drying up, and they convinced them that this guy was their Lord and Saviour. And
absolutely
amazing, and God loved them. And I do feel, I don't argue with them, I don't get into wars with them on Twitter, because I feel for them. I really do. They believe them. They believe these lies. I'll go after Crooked Hillary. He's probably entertaining Crooked Hillary tonight, probably. You know, I'll do this and I'll do that, and no more interventions. Lying bastard. We knew that. I knew it, you knew it, but they didn't. They were crying out for somebody like him, and I wonder how many of them will be courageous, even if there is an election in November, to stay home, to not vote for any of these creeps, you know.
I mean, you know, again, it's one of these things where, like, the opposite is Biden. Oh, well, that's crap too, isn't it? Like, it is like, you know, it's a 2-word review, shit sandwich. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, Biden's an idiot. Biden's an absolute an idiot and an imbecile. And he's got his own issues with his hands being a bit loose around younger girls as well. Is that, I mean, I remember watching Godfather 2, and at the Vegas place, or the Nevada place, when Michael's kid's having a party, the senator tells Michael, I'll give you what you want, but I'll screw you to the wall, and I'll do this and I'll do that. And next thing, the senator wakes up in a brothel with a dead girl next to him. And that's what they've been doing for years. Can we assume that any president, any prime minister who's made it, do we dare to assume, is it, you know, cheeky, is it bad journalism to assume that they must be compromised? Every one of them must be. I would probably assume so. Like, you would think, or maybe not to the degree of, like, they've got something like that. But I mean, I don't know, actually, because now that I'm thinking about it, basically that's the rumour that's flying around, and it is just a rumour, and, like, I've got no idea if it's true or not.
Me neither, but I wonder
that Johnson won't sack Cummings is because Cummings' wife Johnson once made a pass at her, essentially, and I don't know, because that's a bit weak. And, like, Johnson, there's been rumours of Johnson doing far worse.
Do you know what, Neil? I was just going to say, when you're burning £50 notes in front of people at their lowest ebb, when they're sleeping in a doorway, and when you're going to parties where people are putting their appendages into the mouths of dead pigs, and when they're putting baby pigeons up the arses of other guys for shits and giggles, I would imagine Johnson is compromised up the wazoo, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, just the stuff with the Natalie Rowe things as well. You're telling me there's not, you know, the prostitute that was, or is she an escort? I don't know. Like,
she was on this show, Natalie. Yeah, she's good.
Oh, is she? Oh, good for her.
She was,
she's really good. Like, yeah, I mean, the way he acted around her, which I've got absolutely no reason to disbelieve at all, it's just despicable. Like, you know, so, yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, you just look at Johnson's character and you go, look, for crying out loud, you must. I mean, for Christ's sake, he doesn't even admit to how many kids has he got now? 5, 6? Like, of course they've got something on Johnson.
Yeah, and these are questions that how depressed are you with the media? I mean, we get into this all the time.
Mate. Like, this is one of the things, like, this is why I understand why people have got, like, I totally get, like, we're not going back to talking about the virus, but I understand why people have got such, like, very, very differing views, because basically some people are seeing it, some people are affected by it, and some people aren't at all. Like I've got friends in New York and I've got friends in Italy, and I know people who are working as doctors and nurses and an anaesthesiologist in Nottingham and Derby, and they got quite full. So I got to hear about stuff. Yeah. And actually I know some people who've sadly passed away, really sort of friends of friends, but, like, you know, still I've met these people and stuff. So I understand why people don't think it's serious, or don't think it's real even, or don't think that, because basically the media has been absolutely shocking. There's been no clear messaging. Every single media channel has just decided that they're going to use this to leverage as much controversy as they want, like CNN or whatever, just using it as a way to bash Trump. And it's like, yes, fine, we get that, but can we just have some facts? Fox News are just ignoring it for the first half of it, and basically just to protect Trump. And we go, yes, great, that's very nice. Can we just have some facts? The BBC are just the BBC, like their news, like. For Christ's sake, I don't know if anyone's figured this out, but Laura Kuenssberg is definitely an MI5 agent, right? Okay, she's there to prop up the government, right? I've never seen such a lick-spittling lackey in my entire life. Like, she's ridiculous. She makes Sean Hannity look classy. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, but yeah, it's been rubbish. There's been no clear messaging from the media, and it's all been either just sensationalist or trite nonsense. Now, to be fair to the media, and I'm not letting them off the hook, but they haven't had anything to report. Because
hang on, Neal Sanders, the man I love. Don't start that shit now, Sanders. They have at least a dozen academics who have said from day one. That this is the wrong approach. The lockdown is wrong, and it will do more harm in the long term, to health. True. And what they've done is they've kept them off the air, and that's disgusting.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
No, that's totally fair. What I was going to say though was basically that the messaging that's come from the government has been more rubbish.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they basically the Daily managed the spin-a-thon that was the 4 o'clock announcement, and the ridiculous the levels and stuff like that, and they're talking about the R meter, and what was the COVID preparedness thing, which is the number of current cases times by the R number equals how prepared we should be. And whenever you do it, it comes out as stuff like 164,000. It's like, where does that fit on your 5-point scale?
Yeah.
And so but that's a totally fair point. Actually, they haven't. They have stuck very, very rigidly to whatever line they'd chosen at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the thing that really upset me more than anything. I'm not naive. I knew they would do it. But when Hennigan was trying to get on the air and then they wouldn't let him on, and Sunetra Gupta was saying, look, lockdown is a terrible thing, it's a stupid idea.
I have seen her on the news a couple of times, but it's window dressing.
A couple of minutes, isn't it?
There's never a serious discussion about... I mean, there's never really been any sort of decent criticism of the government, actually, and say, like, as we said earlier, regardless of whether you think lockdown is effective or whatever, like...
But how can you do it in 4 minutes, Neil?
The government, basically.
Yes. Listen, you make your shows on Ickonic. Charlie Robinson on before makes these podcasts. You can bring somebody on the programme, like I bring you on because I like you, because you're intelligent, and I can disagree with you and I can probe a bit. But what do we have? We have 45 or 50 minutes. So the listener will go away knowing damn well what you think. Even if they say, oh, Richie, you interrupt them a little bit too much, they know damn well what Neal Sanders thinks. They bring Sunetra Gupta on, or even, to be fair, some of the pro-lockdown doctors. What the hell can you get from somebody in 4 minutes? It's garbage, isn't it? Yeah. We get context, you get nuance. On your show, you get nuance. You have loads of time. And that's what we don't have in the mainstream media, loads of time.
No, you're absolutely right. Noam Chomsky's been saying about that for decades, hasn't he, basically? This is the problem, that again, this boils down to the messaging, doesn't it? It boils down to sound bites and easily consumable stuff, and that's where basically people start to question the media, quite rightly, because they cut corners and they don't explain it properly or fully. And you can see that there's even if the majority of what they're telling you is true, you can always go, yeah, but you're twisting this. You're twisting this for your specific angle to sell your particular product. Because that's what news is. It's a product. It's not there to be informative, or if it is informative, that's very much sort of a byproduct of them, like selling their ideology. So, I can't argue with you, man.
Yeah, it's dreadful. Listen, before you go, tell us about about Ickonic. Charlie mentioned the documentary that Richard made. Richard's been in touch with me. I know he's listening. Richard, I'm sorry that I've not been back to you. I've not been ignoring you, man. It's been a crazy few weeks, and I'm backed up to the bloody wazoo. But I want to get Richard on to talk about that. I like Richard Willits a lot, so I want to get him back on the programme. So tell us about what you're doing, mate. NealSandersMindControl.com is a website you should have bookmarked. Really, and especially if Neil annoys you, it's good. It's good that your perceptions are challenged by people who see the world a bit differently, especially when they're as brainy as him. You learn a lot from Neal Sanders. Go to his website. So tell us about the shows then, Neil. Go ahead.
Well, it's called The Programme, and it's been out for a little while now. It's basically like I think it's 12 parts to it, and it's a program on mind control. It's supposed to be sort of informative. It's supposed to be kind of funny. It's quite sort of self-deprecating, and I'm trying to lighten it up as well, because some of the subjects matter is quite grim. Unfortunately, I have a very grim sense of humour as well, so it doesn't always work. But yeah, it's people who've seen it seem to quite like it. I was very flattered to be asked to make a program like that, and so hopefully I'm going to be doing like a Cambridge Analytica documentary at some point as well. I keep sort of like floating that idea around, and we're trying to sort of get that sort of pinned down at the minute, maybe through Ickonic, possibly not. But yeah, Richard's doing brilliant stuff. Like I was really more of a guest in his Extreme Hypnosis documentary, and I think he's got one coming out called Unnatural soon. And he's just massively prolific at the minute. And his trailers are immense. I don't know if you've seen his trailers, but like the editing and the construction of them, it's like he makes me want to watch his films.
If the paradigm we existed in was different, Richard Willett would be a multi-millionaire producer of documentary films. That's a fact. And I'm not being overly kind to him in saying that, but the paradigm isn't the one that we should exist in. It's tyrannical, and that's the way it is. Thanks for coming back today. It's been too long since you were on. Next time you fancy a good argument, don't watch that Monty Python. Don't watch the Monty Python sketch. Come here and have an argument with me. I'll argue with you all day long. Listen, we see the same problems. We agree on much more than we disagree on. Thanks for your time, Neil, man. I love having you on. Thanks for coming on again today.
It's a pleasure, mate. It's always a pleasure.
And look after yourselves. That was Neal Sanders. Check out Neal Sanders, mindcontrol.com, and check out those films on Mind Control on the Ickonic platform. Listen, I want to just go back to something I said when I was talking with Charlie. I was a bit sharp. I read a story today. I think it's 2 weeks old news anyway, but it was about a trans man called Caden Coleman, who's a woman who has transitioned of sorts to becoming a man, but has kept intact, has kept her womb, but is a man now, and has had his second child. And I said to Charlie, that's a freak show. And that's not the sort of thing I would say. Not because I self-censor. I don't self-censor. I don't. I don't see people as freaks. I see situations as freakish. And when I look at that, it does fuck me off, to be honest. And I can't imagine that being a good environment for a child. And I don't like it. And the reason it came up was because Charlie and I were talking about social crediting and opinions and things that you might think, but in the near future you might never be in a position where you might be able to say it because of the consequences it might have for you. I wouldn't be rude or hostile to Caden Coleman if I lived in Caden Coleman's vicinity. I wouldn't be trying to make life difficult for Caden Coleman. I wouldn't be giving him dirty looks or making comments about how can a man have a baby. I would just mind my own effing business. But in the privacy of my own home and amongst my own friends, if somebody said, Richie, what do you think? I would say that's a fucking shit show. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Christian. So I'm certainly not a Christian conservative. But I just find that fucking awful. It's not a good place for a child to be. However, they might love that child and try to do the best for that child or those children. And that's how I feel about it. And I should be entitled to express that. Some people might say, well, you're entitled to mind your own effing business, Richie. But of course, it's not a case of it not being my business. It becomes your business because you pick up a magazine, or you pick up the Daily Mail, or you pick up the Daily Telegraph, or you pick up the Times. As you know, the programme is subscribed to all of those. The Telegraph and the Times. The Mail is free. The Guardian is free, but I send the Guardian a few quid every month as well. So it's in your face, and people are asking you. People are asking you, what do you think of it? And I want to be able to say, well, I think that is a fucking freak show. Not that people are not freaks. I don't see people as freaks. I see people as people. You know, I meant what I said. Growing up, as a socialist with an interest in politics, following the literature of the Socialist Workers' Party and the Workers' Party and Sinn Féin and on Fublocht, you know, there isn't a hair on my body that's got a problem with anybody else's sexuality. I couldn't give a shit. None of me business. But I just find that mad. I find it mad that it's been celebrated. You know, a trans man having a baby. And it's been celebrated like it's fucking wonderful. And we should all be, you know, joining in a chorus of well done. But I don't want to say well done. I don't want to say anything really. But if I'm pressed to say something, I will say it's a fucking shit show. Anyway. And I'm honest about it. You can take me on. I've said this before. If anybody wants to take it on, I'll make room for you on the radio show. You can come on and take it on and say why you disagree and why I'm wrong. I've had it out with I've had it out with LGBT activists over the years about adoption. I've had it out with Peter Tatchell, who got a mention on last night's show because of Roderick O'Gorman. I've had it out with them. And Tatchell used to say to me, oh, that's just your Catholic upbringing. And I said, well, my Catholic upbringing must have had some influence on me, but I don't believe it has anything to do with me not believing that a child is best served being raised by same-sex parents. And I don't say that because I'm a bigoted skinhead who dislikes or despises gay people. No, I think the best place for a child is with a man and a woman, preferably his or her parents. Tatchell argues, other LGBT people argue with me, and happy days, we'll have an argument about it. And then we'll part friends. But that's what I think. And I won't be told that I can't think that. And I won't be told that I'm some sort of hateful, awful person because I think that. I won't be told that my ideas are arcane. They belong in the 50s. I won't be fucking told that either. They're my ideas. And often enough over the years I stood shoulder to shoulder with gay men and women for rights, for the right to marry, for the right to be acknowledged by the state, for the right to bequeath your belongings, your assets to your same-sex partner. I've stood up when it needed to be done. But I'll also say what I feel. And women who identify as men having babies and saying, I'm a man and I had a baby and all that, it just fucking leaves me cold. Anyway, I've said enough on all of that. Thanks again to Neal Sanders for coming on the programme and to Charlie Robinson earlier on. Back tomorrow at 5. David Sedgwick is amongst the guests tomorrow. David was on about a month ago. I wanted him to come back right soon. He's been writing about the BBC, but much more besides for years. And he's a really good guy and he's a great conversationalist. So David will be on the programme tomorrow. There will be another guest. I don't know who it is, but there will be another guest. That's tomorrow, Wednesday. And I'll tell you about Thursday tomorrow. Thanks again to you for listening to the programme and for putting up with it. Thanks for your support. I will love you and leave you. Going out with a little bit of Roy Orbison today. Going out with a bit of Roy. Talk tomorrow. Bye now.